And we are back, and we're moving into our second conversation for today. As we told you, we are going to dive deeper into what it takes to self-isolate when you have returned to the country. So we're joined this morning via Skype with Dr. Filiberto Pinedos, who is the founding advisor for the Center for Engaged Learning Abroad, Belize. It's called CELA, Belize. And he returned from Canada. He's on day 12 of self-isolation, and he's joining us via Skype this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Doc.
Hey, good morning.
So this would be the most the public has seen you since you returned, right?
Pretty much, yes.
Dr. Pinedos, thank you for joining us this morning. Your participation in this interview is an opportunity for people to understand the responsibility we have when we're asked to self-isolate. Talk to me about your decision to return to the country in the first place.
Well, I was traveling for about a little bit less than 2 weeks, and I already was scheduled to come back. And so I was in Toronto, where, as you know, they've had quite a few cases, and they're beginning to have some community spread. So returning to Belize, I was concerned. I have a 93-year-old father who lives with us, and of course, there were no cases in Belize. I was concerned that I might be the person who brings it them. Of course, I don't want that. So I tried to take all kinds of precautions to make sure I avoid being in contact with coronavirus while I was in Toronto. And I had a flight to come through the US, but I knew that was going to be through Miami. And concerned about that, I managed to get a flight with WestJet. Thankfully, the flights were very cheap. Nobody traveling. So I came flight direct to Belize.
So what was the instruction? Talk to us about the experience coming into the country and the instructions that you received there at the port of entry in terms of self-isolation.
Right. Because we were coming from Canada, Canada is not one of those countries that is listed as, like I don't know if you're coming from China or Italy or any of those other places. So basically, we were asked where we were coming from. And since we were coming from Canada, they did not give us any instructions to self-isolate. I think most people that were going to self-isolation are probably doing it on their own volition for precautionary measures.
Okay. So you took the choice to self-isolate after returning to the country?
That's right, I did. As I said, I had been already at the airport in Winnipeg and the airport in Toronto twice. So I just felt that, I needed to take that measure. As I mentioned, I have an old parent, and it's better to err on the caution side than to take it lightly and end up creating more problems.
Now, Doc, you're 2 days away from completing your 14-day isolation. What has the experience been like for you? Because some persons, I presume, would be sort of concerned about being locked away from the public or seeing the light of day, so to speak, for that length of time. What has that been like?
All right, well, it's not like one is locked inside a dark room, with nothing, no light and no air coming in. I don't think that's right? I am lucky that we have kind of a detached little house from our main house where I can go and stay, and this is kind of where I'm staying. So I, with my family, we had kind of discussed this, and we made lots of arrangements. Like, for example, they came to the airport to pick me up, but they brought the vehicle so that they could leave a vehicle for me to take myself home. And then when I came, I went straight into self-isolation. So they had brought stuff that, they brought my computer and clothes and, the stuff that I need. And so this is kind of where I'm staying. I I read a little bit about self-isolation, saying, well, you don't have to lock yourself in. You need a well-ventilated area. Um, you have to keep your distance. So I can still go outside. I'm in a little separate unit. I can still go out in the veranda and I can speak to my family across from the yard. Um, and they
Yeah.
give the food to me. Then they leave it there, and then I go pick it up.
Yeah.
I wash my own dishes, and when the dishes pile up, then I wash them and I soak in chlorinated water as well,
Yeah.
and so that they can take it back. So it's not like you are in a dark room. I know at the beginning I thought, my self-isolation is everything. I mean, the most difficult thing is, of course, I'm not able to be with my family
Yeah.
and have a meal with them, able to give them a hug, watch a movie with them. I think, and that's kind of a little bit hard, not being able to go for a walk into the village because for precautionary measures. Now, as I understand it, I could probably go for a walk as long as I go like late in the evening, early when there are no people on the road, and I'm not coughing or anything like that. Actually, the first day when I came, I went late at night for a walk, but then I realized that people are also concerned out there, so I decided to stay just at home, and I go for a walk in the yard, like when the family is in, I can go. They give me some space so I can go and walk for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
20 minutes after. That's how exercise is kind of a challenge because a couple of days you I don't know, you feel really anxious and can't settle down. But in general, it's not terrible.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a follow-up question, Doc.
Sure.
Speak to us on the importance of this personal responsibility to be able to self-isolate so that even if you are affected by the disease, you don't pass it on to family and friends and other persons by extension. How important is this responsibility?
I mean, it is huge. It is a huge responsibility. Um, One, I mean, to travel is really a privilege, right? I mean, of course, some of us travel for work, but still, it is a privilege to be able to travel. And people are staying home, and there are people who are already ill, or people who do not have a job, or have recently lost their employment. If you imagine what it would mean if they were to get ill, that's a big responsibility that I certainly take seriously, and I think we all need to. Of course, in my immediate family, there are people who if they would get sick, terrible for them. But beyond my family, in terms of the community, I think we can't afford to spread this virus. So it's a huge responsibility. I like what New Zealand was doing, and they said everybody coming into the country, no matter where you're coming from, you go into self-isolation for 14 days to prevent.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Pinedos, you are in Toledo. In which village?
Right now I'm in Sokot, so no, I
Oh,
haven't
okay.
been to.
I thought you were home. Okay, so when you came back and you made all the arrangements for your self-isolation, I think people don't understand the extent that you have to go when you're self-isolating. You mentioned something critical. You've not hugged your family since you returned home, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was something that I was concerned about, being at the airport. I mean, but first of all, people say they should test everybody who comes into the country. Well, I realize that's not possible. Even with the countries that do have the resources, they're not able to do that.
Yeah.
So they have to be very strategic in who they're testing. So it's our personal responsibility to try to help. And so for me, coming into the country, it was like I knew I needed to be away from people.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, I drove myself home, and I could only wave at my family. And that is a hard part, because you think I don't feel sick. I don't feel in any way sick. sick. So it should be okay. Yesterday, for example, was a particularly tough day. I think it's Sunday, and this is the second Sunday I've been home and haven't been to see the family. This time it's family time. We share a meal together, all of that. And so yesterday was particularly hard. And you think like, okay, it's a 12th day, nothing has happened, probably okay. But I know that it isn't. I mean, I should go for the 14 days. So, and there are other things that one needs to do, or at least that I've been doing, like even like for example washing clothes. I read a little bit about it and how to handle that. But I don't have a washing machine here, so they give me a bucket of water with soap, and so I can put it there.
Yeah.
And kind of wash them already so that they can take it to the washing machine. But anything in the clothes would be neutralized and they'll be safe.
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that.
And even the bathroom that you use, you're
You have to
using
think
a
about.
separate bathroom, because that's also part of the
Fortunately,
concern.
that's right. I mean, fortunately, I'm using a second bathroom, so that makes it a lot easier. But the little thing, even with the children, like I have my son, he wants to come around, and then I said, no, you stay away, stay at good distance. We can talk, stay at good distance. Yeah. And he looks at me and said, but you're not sick. Of course, I'm not sick, right? And I was even thinking about, so we have pets, right? And the pets go around. I was thinking, well, should I pet the pets, right? And then they're going over there. So little things like that to consider. And because you're not sure, I mean, you simply don't know whether you are infected or not. And I've heard about cases where people have very mild kind of symptoms, so it's you have to take the precautions.
Now you're really a great example of someone who's taken the full responsibility of voluntarily executing and properly executing self-isolation. I know you're aware that in fact our index case and that self-isolation was not adhered to the way you have. What would be your message to people who are currently under self-isolation or need to go into self-isolation about all the things you shouldn't do?
Well, first of all, as I said, we shouldn't be shaking hands, shouldn't be hugging family as much as one would want to. You got to keep your distance away from people. And then, of course, everybody's telling you, wash your hands. Where I am, I make sure that I wipe stuff. And once I go out of self-isolation, we'll clean this place, the surface, with Clorox and stuff like that. That's very important. I think the main thing that I see is that the danger is that we feel, I'm okay. I don't feel sick. Okay? And there's no way that I could be sick. And that you go out and, lower your guard. And I think that's the dangerous part. It's better to err on the too cautious side than assume that everything is okay. To me, that's kind of the main thing. Think, look, I am not absolutely sure that I'm okay. So it's better to self-isolate, to practice social distancing, to practice those things for the benefit of other people. Because, okay, if I'm sick, well, I will have to deal with that, but I don't want to be this of the illness.
Yeah. So you're on day 12. No symptoms so far.
No symptoms. Fingers crossed.
All right. And well, we do wish you. How do you keep yourself occupied 12 days in? Lots of Facebook?
Lots of Facebook. Computer. I have
guitar there, yeah.
Nice.
Tocar la guitarra.
So you've made up a isolation COVID song already?
I have. But
You're not going to share that with us?
No, a little bit too shy. I probably on video. I might share a video later on.
Okay. Well, we were looking for someone to talk about the details of self-isolation. We're glad that we were able to get you. There are people who will be placed in self-isolation if they return to the country or if they've come in contact with someone who's positive for COVID-19. So we hope that they've paid attention to your experience and learned all that they have to do.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Doc.
Best of luck. 2 more days. You're almost there.
That's right. Thank you.
All right. And with that, of course, Isani, that was the opportunity to talk to someone in self-isolation, Dr. Filiberto Pinedos, who is on day 12.
It's interesting hearing from him what that experience is like day in and day out.
Yeah. Big responsibility, and I think he communicated so well all the precautions that have to be taken, albeit uncomfortable. Nonetheless, he must do it, and he sees his role as important in being able to do so.
Definitely.
So we are going to move ahead with the show for this morning, and we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking the business perspective, looking at the COVID-19 response and impact so far. So please stay tuned.